Engineer Amit. Today is 14th of June, 2022. Um, and you know the normal spiel. If you have any questions, please put them in the Ask for Questions section. We would love to answer those for you. In case of there are no questions, we will go through our community page and try to answer any unanswered questions there. So I'll give you guys a few minutes because I think we posted the link at the last hour. So sorry about that. But we'll try to cover as much as we can during this session. So feel free to ask questions. While we wait, I will just ask Amit how you doing and what's going on.
Thank you, Rahul. I'm doing good. Yeah, it's been a good day. How about you? What's been going on?
Well, I'm good. Thanks for asking. It's been a busy day as usual. We'll try to keep this one short and sweet. We have some questions in the community. Oh, good question, George. Well, we are using a different version of Crowdcast that we used for our previous office hours. Some looks like Crowdcast has upped their game. The new user interface looks pretty cool. It has certain features that honestly I haven't been through. Sorry about that, but yeah, the interface looks pretty good, George. So looks like it's just us Draftbit folks here. So we have Amit, as I said before, and we have our head of product, George, who is supporting us in the chat. So thank you, George, for being here. So what I'll do while we wait for questions from our other users is basically go to our community section and I'll try to answer those questions. So give me a second. Let me open everything up and then I'll share my screen. Oh, that's cool. How do I start sharing my screen?
On the bottom, you see share something?
On the bottom. Oh, yes. Thank you, Amit. Share screens. And I will share my window. Share this window. So, Amit, can you see my screen?
Oh, yes, I can.
So the first question that we have here, let me just open that. Accordions all show the same data despite different fetch feeding each one. The context here is I have two different fetch components nested under two different accordion components. So these are the components. When I expand the first accordion component, it comes out fine, the image below. Okay. However, when I expand both the accordions, they both somehow reset to show the same list, even though they're different fetch components. In the example above, the housing and transportation is now showing clinical trials as soon as I open the clinical trials accordion. And you can see here in the screenshot. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting problem. I would love to dive more deeply into this. I have asked a question from the user if it's okay to show their app, because we would need to look at their app to troubleshoot this one. I haven't got a response back yet. So what we'll do is we'll put this on the back burner. If we hear back from the user while in office hours, we'll get back to this question. Otherwise, we can just move on.
Okay.
The second question here is course problems with every geocoding API I try. Oh, okay.
So it looks like you answered this one.
Yes, I did. I just wanted to bring this up so like
Yeah.
others users have more context on what's happening. So I can successfully test and add endpoints, but as soon as I use the in-app, sorry, use it in the app, I get CORS issues. Do I need to whitelist some domains for web previews to work? Uh, I think I've already answered this one. Ahmed, do you have any comments on this?
Uh, it's basically the same thing that you said. If he has access to the backend, then yes, they should actually be able to whitelist the domain. Uh, Other than that, I'm not sure. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So basically, if you don't have control over your backend, which you usually don't if you're using third-party APIs,
Hmm.
then the workaround there would be to use the mobile previews, because in mobile previews you don't get those CORS errors. So you can work through the mobile previews in developing your app, and that should just take care of your problems. Um, so anything, I don't think there's any other thing that I can add to
Yeah.
user, because again, if you don't have control over your backend, you can't really do anything in terms of handling things on the Draftbit side, because this CORS issue is specific to a backend, which is basically a backend not allowing requests from certain endpoints. So let's move on to the other question then. Then we have a question here, truncate text, read more button. Okay, let's read through this. I have answered this one as well, but I think it'll be a good use of our time that we can show a demo of how you can do this through conditional display, because that's like the only way we can do it in Draftbit for now, without diving into custom code.
Hmm.
Um, if we have some time, we'll dive into custom code, but I would try and avoid that situation. So let me open my builder and we'll try to work this through together and live. So I haven't done this before. If people, um, just giving some background. So I can call this read more button. Start with a blank app.
So, what is the end goal for the user? Does he want the truncated text as well as a read more button so that when the read more is clicked, we get the full text?
Correct. So basically, thanks, Amit. So basically, yes, that's exactly what the user wants. So he has like a long paragraph, but he only wants to show some part of the paragraph and then have a read more button. So once the user clicks on the read more button, they show you the entire paragraph. And that's what we will try to do. Uh, so for that, we would need a text component. Add that to my screen. Let's just move it to the web preview.
Uh-huh.
And then in this text, we would need some lorem ipsum. I don't know if there's a quick way of me generating that. Ipsum.
If you want, our text area component has some lorem ipsum text. You can copy it from there.
Oh, that's a good idea. I actually just managed to find some here
Oh, that's great.
online, so I'll just use that for now. So there you go. You can try reading it. It's random text generated. So what he's using here is using this truncate text option, which basically cuts the text into just showing a little bit of your text and then shows it dots instead of showing the entire text.
Uh-huh.
So we'll do tail, and then we can specify the number of lines to be 1. So now you see the text disappeared and we have just one line of text. and then a few dots here stating that there is more to this paragraph, and you can
Mhm.
click to read more. So for that, we will add a read more button. I was just typing in read
Yeah.
more. So we'll
As
have,
an aside, we might very soon have like a custom button with our new custom definitions that we're coming up with.
oh, yes. Why don't you tell our users more about it?
Who are really talented engineers in Draftbit are working towards bringing custom definitions where we can make custom components and use them through our apps, different apps inside our builder. And I'm really excited for it. It's really cool. And yeah, let's see. And I'm really excited to see what our users come up with because they have always managed to like take Rapid to the next level with the things they have built.
Definitely. Yeah, you're right. So basically, yes. So custom definitions, basically having your own custom components, which you can add to your builder directly by just clicking on add rather than how we used to do before. Like we would write in some custom code and then we would use the custom code component to call the function that we wrote in our custom code section. Instead of that, we are working on techniques that we could have pre-built components which you can just add to your components section here by just
Mhm.
clicking the add icon. So
Yeah.
definitely looking forward to that. And you're right, our users definitely will push the boundaries there too. So
Yes. They always manage to keep us on our toes, which is
correct.
an amazing thing.
So basically, let me just tell everyone what I'm trying to do here first and then do it. So in our use case, what we will do is to handle it in a completely no code fashion. We would have two text components conditionally displaying one, depending on the state of a variable, to simulate the read more action. So I have this text component. I will duplicate this one again and put it on top here. And this one will not have any truncate text. So I can remove these properties from here and you'll see this entire paragraph. And then I would have a string variable. I can call it show text, which would be a boolean with the default value of false. And then I can save that.
We've got Dave here. Dave is saying Tail is the only one that works the same on both Android and iOS. So I always suggest people use that one. So
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, that's a interesting observation, and I wasn't aware about that. So thank you. Unless like you guys have different ways of accomplishing this, let us know. I will obviously try and demonstrate that. So we have defined a string variable, and now we just want to conditionally display that with this help of the string variable, which is show text. So if show text is false, we will show the first line, the first text component, and if show text is true, then we will show the other one, right? So right now the show text variable is false, so you can see the paragraph is hidden and you can only see the truncated text here. And now on my read more button, all I need to do is set a variable, which I'm sure I can find right here, and show text. So this is what I usually do whenever I have to turn, again, it's not for everyone and not for all use cases, but fits the bill for most use cases is like whenever I want to toggle something, which is like true to false and then false to true, I do set a variable, show text, then choose the new value as show text, and then use this transformation called negate, which is basically if something is true, it will make it false, and if it's false, it will make it true.
that's really cool. So that just works as the not thing in JavaScript, so not of whatever variable value it is. So that's neat. That's really cool.
Exactly. So this kind of button then acts like a two-way button. So if I click on read more, I will get this entire text, and probably just a way to differentiate that for our users and not for something that you want to do in your app. I'm just going to remove this first line so we actually, or wait, probably a better way to demonstrate what we're actually seeing is I'll color this one in a different color, and then this component maybe has a different color.
Yeah.
So now you're seeing this lorem text. Another good way would be to use 64 as, okay, that just becomes too wild in our use case. Probably let's go back to something more conservative. Go to 24. All right, so when I hit read more, you see this entire paragraph. And when I hit read more again, you don't see it. And obviously you can do the same for the buttons as well. So basically what you can do is have read more or
Show
show
more, show
less.
less. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to try that out? Maybe we can do that as well. Here, let's see. If I, again, thinking on my feet here, if I do this, ABC, and then this text can become another variable. And you can stop me, Ahmed, if you feel like I'm doing something wrong. So this is button text, and our initial value is going to be show more. This would get mapped to button text, show more. And when we click this button,
We might
when I
need a
hit
custom function to check what's the value of
show more,
uh,
right,
yeah, a boolean variable, so that we can then toggle on true it's going to be show less, on false it's going to be show more.
makes sense. Well, rather than using a custom function, I want to avoid those things. So what I can
Mhm.
do instead is have this, have a show more as one button, and then
And
duplicate
duplicate
that
that.
button
Yep.
and do show less, for lack of a
We
better
might
word.
need to change the previous button's action stack to from toggle to just change it to true, and the second one to just change it to false.
There we go. So, or would this work just like this, Amit? So for instance, if I do,
Oh yeah, it's going to work. If we do the same action stack on both of them, it's just going to negate the value. Yeah, that's going to work as well.
right? So
Yeah.
if I do doesn't exist, and then for this one, I can do uh, show text, and if it exists. So if I click now, it will ch- change the button to show
Yeah.
less,
Yeah.
and click there.
It's the same action stack on both of them. Yeah, it's working the same way.
Exactly.
Perfect.
So there we go. I hope this helps. The other way of doing this is through custom code, and I don't really want to get into that right now because we can use this time to answer other questions on the community as well. So let's get back to our community section. And just like how George does, I can just type in a quick message. Hey, hey, we over this in office hours. I will share a video. just as a placeholder. So it reminds me that I have to post it.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, even Dave agrees with it. Like having two buttons is easier than doing the handlebar notation and having custom function to check show text boolean.
exactly, right? So basically, the like your idea, I think, is a better idea, but like we are trying to cover these things without any code.
Uh,
Uh, so that's why I kind of went in with having those two buttons.
yep.
Uh, so has anyone successfully created a Mapbox custom component? Again, this kind of dives into more custom component territory. From my past experience, I haven't really tried using Mapbox component in it, but if it's an SDK, I would just give it a shot by importing it and see if that works. If it doesn't, we have inbuilt maps in Draftbit, which kind of works for most of the use cases. So I would encourage you to see if that solves your use case for this, and hopefully that
We've got
helps.
really good documentation for the map component by our
Mhm.
very own Dave, and it's really detailed. You should go through it. It's going to help you out, guys.
Perfect. So these other ones have already been resolved, so I'll avoid those. The generating preview seems to hang is what we have discovered internally, that it was some sort of custom code that was being used, which was throwing uh, some issues. So it's not like a Draftbit thing, it's more like a user specific thing in the custom code. So again, trying to avoid that, we would move on. And then we have this question. Auth keep boolean is signed variable updated. So the user wants hello again. Oh, Dave has already answered this one. Hey Anna, take a look at the Xano Auth starter app. I think it will give you an idea if you need any help after that, let us know. Well, for people who are not familiar with the Xano Auth starter app, I would suggest if you're using the Xano backend, that app is a great starting point for anyone who has, again, the Xano backend, because we cover all the bases in that starter app already, like all the actions, depending on conditional navigation, based on if the user is already signed in, we transfer you to the home screen. So it's a great starting point. I would suggest using that. Uh, so Anna came back and said, hey, Dave, I'm using that in my app for login and sign up. I watched the tutorials. I don't understand how do I set my variable is signed if the user is signed or not when the auth token expired in Draftbit. Sorry, that's a leak in my development skills. What do you think, Ahmed? Can we quickly show her how we can do that?
Yeah, we should be able to show her quickly. And that's not a leak in your development skills, Anna. It's like everyone has to start somewhere, and we are continuously learning. So yeah, every day we learn something new.
Cool. So let's get back to the builder. This is where I'm most comfortable at. So
So
let's
we
try
all
and
are.
see. Let's try and see if we can get this done. So in this use case, and thinking out loud, and Amit, if you have ideas, feel free to chime in,
Hmm.
is basically we'll have an endpoint. For now, we'll just use the auth me endpoint. And
Yes.
then basically on screen focus, what we want to do is check, hit the auth me endpoint, check if we get a valid response from the auth me endpoint. If we do, that means the user is signed in, and
Uh,
we will set the is signed in variable to true. Otherwise, if there is no user or if we don't get a valid response back from the endpoint, we want to set is signed in her case, to false.
yes.
Okay.
I think that should do it.
Okay. Let's see if I can just get it done on this app itself. Um, okay, let me see if I have signed into Xano anywhere. I believe I did recently. Good.
Let me know if you need the endpoint. I have one of the authme endpoints from my app open.
Oh, you do? Sure. So can you share the details with me? Would be helpful.
Just a sec. I'll just share the endpoint URL with you. There you go.
Thank you. So let's get back here. Oh, so first I would need to set up the service. Yep, it's a good demo for how we set up a service. So we'll go to REST API. I'll call the service Xano and given a base URL here, which Amit just shared with me. So thank you. So we created the Xano service, and now I want to add endpoints here. One thing that I probably forgot and we should do first is have a device variable called auth, just for simplicity, and I can then have bearer. Would you be kind enough to give me an auth token as well, Amit?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'll just do that.
Thank you. So again, just to let you guys know, I'm doing this live and we will probably won't get it right for the first attempt, but we'll keep on trying and get to where we want to. And I'm assuming the user's use case here is, as she says, is set a variable according to if the user has a valid auth token or not.
Yes. That's what I'm making out from the wording as well. Like if the user is signed in or not when the app is open and when they are navigating to a screen.
Okay, so we have the auth token saved, and the reason we wanted this auth token is I'm not going to be setting up all the endpoints, so we just, at least that's my initial thought, and maybe we can just show this with the auth me endpoint itself. So let's call this endpoint auth me, which is a get endpoint. Don't really need to set up roles here. Path would be auth me, and the auth me usually needs an authorization header, so I can call it authorization, and we'll use our global auth variable. So if everything is set up right, test it. There we go. That
Very
was
cool.
that easy. So we got a response back. So there is a user named text, and they have an email, test@test.com. We can save this. And then probably on the screen, let's just, I think it's easier just to hide them so we don't have to really think about all of these. So, and I just want to show some sort of content on the screen because there is a use case that I want to show, which is text, which again, I'm using text. You can use anything here. So my text would just say loading or getting your data. That's like one text, and the other text here would just say this is the content, right? And loading, probably do 3 dots. feels better. Content. So basically, the first thing that we want to do is we want to have two variables on the
Variables.
screen.
Yes.
So one would be is signed in, and the default value should be false. We can add that here. And the other variable here would be is loading. And we would use that as false. I'm gonna just keep me updated on the chat messages as well, because when I'm sharing my screen, I can't look at the chat. Just in case, we get good feedback from Dave or from George, if there's a better way of doing this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So basically, we have the is loading variable, which I'm going to use to conditionally display these things, right? So if we are loading, we don't want to show the content on the screen. So you can do this in many ways, right? I'm just showing it in a simple way by just using the text component. Ideally, you would have a view, which would take the entire screen and have text or a loading indicator, an
Mhm.
icon, whatever you guys want to show as a loading indicator, you can use that. And which would basically, okay, I think I probably got this the other way around. So it's is loading is false, then we want to show, sorry, if is loading is true, then we want to show loading.
Loading. Yeah.
And if is loading is false, then we want to show this text. So is loading. Okay, so I, do you think I got it the other way around? But it works. So is loading is false, and we have the loading indicator. So that's probably the wrong way of doing it. So let's have it. Should I go through this? Let's just go it. Let's just do it. Let's just show people how it's actually supposed to be done. So is loading is true. We save it. And then did I open something that I shouldn't have? Let's just refresh. Okay, there we go. So now loading would be is loading.
Exists. Yeah. When is loading is true,
When
it
is
should show
loading exists,
loading. Yeah.
yes. And when is loading is false, we don't want to show content. Sorry,
Yes.
when is loading, yeah, I think that makes sense. I hope so. So yeah, so that's our way of trying to hide the content while we check if your token is valid or not, basically. So let's go on this screen, and then we will use the on-screen
Screen
focus
focus.
trigger. We will make an API call. Now, first we would set, just in case if is loading is true or not, the first thing we do here is to set variable, set is loading, and the new value would be true. Second thing that we do is we're gonna make the API call to our endpoint in Xano, the auth.me endpoint, and have result name for it. Just call it auth.me for simplicity. And if we get a response back, so let's just log to console what we are getting. Move that here. Let's go to one of our previews. Open the console. So we get these values, right? So we're
Yes.
getting the name and email. This means that the auth.me is working well.
Should we show to
Uh,
our users what an invalid call looks like right now? We can change
yes,
a character. Yeah.
exactly. Let's try to do that and hopefully we can show them. If I remove the E from the start and save this and close this and then do a refresh, a moment, we'll go back here, go to console, and looks like it's still getting the is loading true, which basically means,
Should we do a hard reload? A hard reload for it?
yeah, let's try a hard reload. So it's probably picking up our values from cache. That's why
Gotcha.
it shows you the old token. Hmm. It still seems to be doing taking the values from the cache. Maybe to um, show this. Is there another way? Uh, let's see. If I set a button and change that variable, would that work? Let me try that.
Yeah, let's try it out.
I have a button on press. I'm going to set this variable auth, and the new value just becomes empty. And then just checking if this would work. Yep, doesn't look like it.
Yeah, let's try one of the mobile previews.
Yeah, let's see if we can get it working. Because I think the reason what's happening here is we are still picking up the value from our cache rather than the value from our preview, like from our variable section here.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, there
Okay,
we go.
this works. So we got back, which says code, error code unauthorized. So basically, we got a message back saying that, hey, you're not authorized. This is the wrong authorization token. So if I go back and change this,
Put back the E.
yep, and
Let's try to
hopefully,
do.
so what we will do now is basically change our previews, go back to web preview, and it still says unauthorized. Did we change? Oh,
No, we
is
did.
it possible? Let me just do a hard reload.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Should we go back to one of the mobile previews and see what's happening?
Yep, I'm gonna do that. Just remove that button because that use case didn't really work. So we'll go to Android preview. Oh, there we go. So we get the ID back, and uh, basically yes. So this time it took the right auth token, and we are good. So basically, what we want to do here is we want to extract the is message, and correct me if I'm thinking wrong, Amit. So we'll extract the is message. If is message has a value, we want to set is signed in
Uh,
into false.
yes.
Or do you want to do it the other way around, in which we extract the name? If we have a name, then we sign is signed in to true. Otherwise, by default, is signed in is false.
Yeah, works both ways. Yeah.
Works both ways, right? So let's use extract key. Our input would be
Yeah.
automate.
Yep. The action result from our API call.
Then we will use dot name.
I think it's name with a small n, right?
Yes, we will use name.
Let's
Assign a
assign it.
variable here. Name. So now we're gonna do move this up here, and let's just console log the name to see if we're getting this value. I like to keep checking what's going on. So there you go. We got test, which is right.
And that's the best way to do it because at least we have it till the last test. It's everything's working. So if anything goes wrong, we exactly know where exactly it went wrong for us.
Exactly. Because yeah, I know like it's not like a very tough logic, but it's just like a habit that you develop while you code is like keep testing on every logical statement that you do. So we got the name. So if we have the name, uh, we are good. But if we don't have the name, we're gonna conditionally stop right here
Hmm.
and name. And then let's add this conditional stop. So basically what we're doing, if there is a name, if there isn't a name, we want to conditionally stop. Otherwise, um, we carry on, right? Because other
Yes.
down here, we're gonna make this signed in to be true.
Yeah, that's
Does
going
that
to be
make
the
sense?
last step from yeah for our action stack.
Yep. So, and just to highlight that, let's go back to here. Error, obviously. Go back to the Android preview. Let's just clear this out. So we
Yes.
got test. So what that means is we had the name, it didn't conditionally stop, and it printed out log to console. So that was another test basically to see if it's logging something to the console or not, which it does, which is great. So now we're going to set a variable is signed in to true. And one more thing that we don't want to forget here is add another set variable, which is loading to false. And we can move this one is loading to before the conditional stop, because uh, the reason we are doing this is loading variable is to show you the loading indicator on your screen. And even if the user is signed in or if the user is not signed in, we want to stop showing you the loading while we make the API request. Correct
Yeah.
me if I'm wrong anywhere here, Amit.
Yes, and based on the logic that the user is following, they can either show a link to go back to the previous screen or the content, whatever the logic is in their app, they can go ahead and do that based on these variables.
Okay, so now you can see that the is loading disappeared and we can see the content on the screen. Um, go back here, go back to this, just testing this out.
Hmm.
There we go. So it showed loading for a brief moment. We got the right auth token and we showed the content. So this is how you can set your is signed in variable. Anna, I hope this gets to you and you gain any value from this. Um, do you want to go over the process once, Amit? Just explain what we did here.
Yeah. So
Or if
what
you
we
want to
have
add
here,
something, sorry, and if you want to add
oh,
something to it, please feel free.
I think we covered everything. So what we have here is basically two screen variables. One is loading. Sorry, two variables. It's app variables, right? That we have.
Yeah, I think I just made them into um, device variables or something.
Yeah.
It's
So
not
two
screen
global variables
variables.
that we have
Yeah.
is signed in and is loading, and we've got the auth token that we have. So what we're doing is we are checking on screen focus. Whenever the screen comes into focus, we are going to set the is loading variable to true. So in case the is loading is set to false or anything, just as a check, if it's set to false, we'll just set it to true here, and then make an API request, extract the name from it. It can be either ways. Either we extract the name or the message based on the logic that you want to follow, and we'll make a conditional stop based on the presence of name. So if we have a name present, we continue. If we don't, we make a conditional stop. And just before that step, we are setting the is loading to false so that we can actually stop the process over there. And based on the result, like if our conditional stop doesn't like it doesn't turn to true, like we go through with it, we go to the next step, set the is signed in to true, and show the content to the user. So that's the basic, what should I say, summary of it, like what we went through, and this should be good.
Perfect. And I hope this was useful for users. Are there any other questions in the community that I need to answer? Let me just have a look quickly because I think we still have like 10 minutes.
Uh-huh. And I think the new interface might have confused some users because we don't have any questions today. The questions thing has gone to the right.
Oh, thank you
Yeah.
for letting us know, Ahmed. Um, I think the date picker one you already answered. Um, we got most of them covered, yeah. I think the checkbox row and with text is something that requires custom code as well for now. So I think will avoid getting into that. Integrating Calendly into Draftbit, I think Dave answered that one as well. So Calendly does provide an API which you can use to connect to Calendly directly, or you can use um, the web view component to basically show whatever Calendly wants to show you through that web view itself. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if there are any other users who wants to ask any other questions. Please feel free.
I think we've got one user, SE, but no questions from them yet. Hey,
Uh,
SE, if
hey, SE, let us know if you have any questions. Um, so I think what we can do, Ahmed, today is we'll wrap it up here. Unless Dave or George, you want to add anything, happy to discuss it with our users.
Thank you,
Thank
Dave.
you, Dave. So let's call it a day. Uh, Thank you for taking out the time and spending with us in office hours. We will have the next office hours next week on Tuesday, because what we are kind of thinking about doing is we would use our time for the Thursdays office hours dedicatedly to our new users and show them the platform during that time, which I think is a great use of everyone's time. Basically, have all the users who just sign into our platform, give them a walkthrough, answer any questions that they have in during those during that office hours. And for Tuesdays, we would have it open for anyone else to join, ask questions, and as you all know, we love to answer them all for you. So we guys will see you next Tuesday. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.